Talk. Welcome back to the Let's Stay Together Talk Show. Now here is your host, Reverend Rick McCain and author Brenda McCain.
All right. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the first hour of the show. Thank you for listening to Let's Stay Together Talk with Reverend Rick McCain, author Brenda McCain, and Tracy Brown Howard. Here we're talking about, today we're talking about our legacy is our Black history. We had Kathy Trusty on the line, and soon we'll be coming up with someone talking about making marriage work in Black history. But we're going to talk a little bit about the Inspirational Corner.
Yes, last Sunday had experience in a grocery store. A beautiful young girl by the name of Anaya was in a shopping cart. Looked at me, smiled, very energetic and sweet. And I love my little kids. Look cute girl. I spoke back. She invited me to her birthday party. That little cutie pie told me it was her birthday. She showed me a beautiful 4-year-old cake. It was the number 4 and some ice cream. Said, please come to my birthday party. It was just the energy that she was bouncing off that made me think, I need to become a better adult. I mean, she inspired me just to see that gleam, that little piece of glimmer in her eyes. And then my husband came over there and started singing Happy Birthday, the Black version to her, and she was just tickled. But the thing that inspired me the most was a child that little was a child.
Yeah.
She wasn't worried about somebody being sick, somebody shooting, because they worry about that that age. And she was just so humble and sweet. And I just want to say to people, you don't want to take that joy out of the eyes of a child like that. Because what we seen, it was just so precious. I was standing there with tears in my eyes like, wow, this girl is so infectious. She made me want to go home and just sing Happy Birthday, which my husband would tell me stop singing. But that's okay.
But, it reminded me of, the old song Young, Gifted, and Black. She just seemed like she was going to be such of a wonderful young lady. She doesn't have a Facebook page, thank God. But
she might. 4 years old.
No, she don't. She's going to be one of those special young ladies that's going to be doing some great things. But it was just so nice to see that because, a lot of times, even kids now that, we talked about bullying, they get bullied and teased and stuff like that for just being nice. And just to see that joy in her face, it just it inspired you because you wanted to be able to say, or see other kids that have that kind of a joy and inspiration as well, So we're just thankful for that. That we was able to get a chance to see that and get a chance to enjoy her and having her birthday. I think it was that day.
It was
Sunday,
wasn't it? And she was it was so cute because she was inviting everyone to come to her party. So she's so innocent, and that's what I love, the innocence of a child. That was just so precious that when you see stuff like that. Yeah, and it's great that you get a chance and opportunity to witness somebody excited about their birthday, and we'll pray that that young lady have many more birthdays to come. Yes, and may God continue to cover her. And like now, I believe we have Miss Camellia Jackson on the line.
Hey, Camellia.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, family. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for giving us a call to talk to us about the Making Marriage Work section. So I'm going to let my baby, my girl, my boo go ahead and let her talk for like 5 seconds.
Wow.
A whole 5 seconds. Let's see what you can do with that.
Okay, we're going to work it out, honey. Now, let's talk to me about you being a military wife, because in this segment, we're talking about Black marriages, and contrary to what people say, they do work. So tell us about the military life of you being a military wife.
Well, first let me just say thank you guys for having me on. I think this is such a fitting tribute to February, the month of love, and celebrating what you just said, Black marriages and making them work. Just like you just said, contrary to popular belief, they do exist, and they do work, and they do flourish. But again, some things you guys touched on a little bit earlier, if you listen to a lot of news or maybe read a lot of social media posts, you may be led to believe otherwise. But in my experience, and just like I'm sure in yours in the church and how you fellowship and with your listeners, you've all experienced that that's just not true. The reality is totally something different. So me personally, I have been married for 19 years.
Wow.
My husband is a retired military officer. We both met. We were in the Navy.
What's
Yay,
your
go
husband's
Navy.
name, Camellia?
Get ready. Yes, his name really is Michael Jackson. Not the Michael Jackson, but a Michael Jackson.
I just love that.
Now, can you guys imagine if my name was LaToya or Janet?
Yeah. So tell us how he makes you feel.
I love him dearly, and I got to say, I was so tickled about you guys' meeting story. You know, we all have really great meeting stories, but we met in the military. We were both stationed in California and San Diego. He went on to retire from the military. He did 20 years and retired last year, and I just did the one term. But it was a challenge. You know, marriage in and of itself is already a challenge, as you well know. But then you add extra things, the military. And one spouse I met, she put it so eloquently when she said, you know, the military is like that in-law that you really don't like, but you can't talk back to them. And I was so tickled by that because she pretty much hit the nail on the head. But, of course, you guys wouldn't know anything about that because you both love your in-laws, right?
They really love my in-law.
Okay.
She's talking about us, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I love my in-law. My mother and father have since passed away, and my wife didn't get a chance to see my father that much, and my mother loved her a lot because if she didn't, she'd have let her know. She one of those military moms, too, like that. Like, she'll tell you exactly what she thinks. So, you know, Camille, I read some information as me and Brenda was talking about it, and they were saying, you know, this is Black History Month, so we're talking about African-American marriages. We're not negating any other ones. We're just, you know, highlighting, you know, the African-American marriage. That they were saying that African-American marriages don't work as much because of certain things. One of them, I think, was being in prison, or what was the other two things we read on there?
Well, the first one was the corporate thing of slavery back in the day, that, you know, the house was divided. Allowed to be married back then.
We ain't gonna go that far.
Well, okay, well, let's pull it on fast forward. And the other thing is welfare kept the house divided. You couldn't get on welfare, and if you did have a man in the house, he had to go. And I think they made a movie about that.
Claudine.
Oh, look at y'all.
With James Earl Jones.
That's going back a little bit far too. But what is the issue now? I mean, because, you know, I don't want somebody to say, well, you got to go back that far. I mean, I know
I have a lot of issues, but you want Camellia to tell you something.
I know a lot.
Right.
We know you got a lot of issues, but
hey.
But what I'm going to say this is why is it that they're saying that African American marriages don't work? You've been married for 19 years. We've been married for 21. I know couples 20, 30, 40 some odd years that was at the church that I was with. Why is it that they're not recognizing that there are some strong African American marriages going forth?
Well, I can tell you, so I know you don't want to really go into the history, but I can do a quick, 2-second version of that. You know, so you look at slavery, the institution of it was horrible. It did separate families. And, Rick, you know, you being a man, what is the main thing that as a man, as head of household, wants to do for his family? You know, your job is to protect.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
And you take that away, and so that kind of shatters the notion. But contrary, though, after the Civil War, when it was legal for slaves to get married, you know, there was a surge. Black marriages statistically were very high right up until about around the 60s or so, when, you know, the civil rights movement and things started. And so all these quote-unquote programs, which kind of led to the whole Claudine kind of thing, programs that were designed to help but really hurt. You know, so you weren't entitled to certain subsidies and certain programs if there was a man in the house. Okay, so fast forward a little bit more, then we had the war on drugs. You know, and then we had an inordinate amount of black men being incarcerated for minor offenses. So, you know, we're looking at incidents that systematically took black men out of the households. So what are we left with? We're left with women who have to fend for themselves. So fast forward to today. You know, with a legacy like that, sisters started, you know, doing things on their own, becoming more career-focused. You know, I think there's a statistic that says women outrank men 2-to-1 as far as getting college degrees and college education. So when you fast forward to that, you say, okay, if I'm a college-educated woman, I don't want to settle. But if you flip the coin over, that then says to the men that, oh, well, I got twice as many women to choose from. So, it's pay dirt. So, but you look at all of these things, and it's funny, though, with statistics, you have to be very careful about looking at numbers and the totals of the numbers and how they're manipulated, because I was doing some research on this and going through percentages, and according to the census data from 2009, the 70% of black women, like they like to tout and say they aren't married, were between the ages of 25 and 29. But by age 55 and above, only 13% had never been married.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting statistic. So it's like, okay, we are out there, we do exist, but, what sells in the media? Sensationalism. So it becomes, well, nobody wants to report on the happy black people, so, let's talk about the unwed mothers and, the crime and the poverty, which is a whole different situation that kind of leads to the problem we're having.
I hear, some people out there saying, that's all well and fine, but I want to talk about, African-American marriages that are actually working. I mean, I believe that in any nationality we have issues where, relationships are not working. Unfortunately, with African Americans, some of that was due to the fact that they were trying to keep, African American families apart or African American men from working. We didn't have the capability of getting the same kind of jobs or the same kind of pay. That happened then. But now, in a foolish reality, we do have the capability of getting those jobs, getting that education, getting that capability to have a two-family income that's doing well and working together. Why would all of those opportunities, why would they still be saying that African-American marriages are failing?
You got to look at a couple of things. So, right, we do have opportunities, but we need not just kind of skate over things like institutional racism that play a role in that. So back to, like I said, a man wants to feel like he can provide and that he is the head of his household and that he can take care of his family. And so I alluded to institutional racism, where you're basically unable to to get access to capital to buy homes. Home ownership is one of the biggest ways and easiest ways to build wealth in our country. So, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but, access to services like in building bank accounts, 401ks, IRAs, tools to build wealth versus what we have in our communities, payday loans, check cash in stores and pawn shops, So you kind of look at that and it's like, okay, young people today are pretty much saying like, well, I want to get married, but I want to be able to take care of my family. And so when you take that off the table, I think that's where we run into the statistics that we're looking at. But more to your point, though, that we are out there and we do work, I can just say, speaking personally, I come from a family of, my mom had 7 sisters, so 8 women. They were all married, as were my grandparents. So it does exist, but if you look at popular media even, what are some of the most black shows, I'll say, most popular black shows on TV right now?
Well, Blackish.
Yeah. Empire.
Right.
How to commit murder.
Know how to get away with murder,
baby. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
About the same thing.
Exactly. And my husband and I were discussing that the other day, and we absolutely love Blackish because it's a positive representation. Pretty much the closest thing we've had since the Cosby Show.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It just throw me off. I don't like the title Blackish.
I know, but it's an excellent show.
And I don't really watch a lot of television anyway, so I don't watch Blackish. So I'm not really a big television person. They lost me in the 70s when they didn't have nobody look like me. So
well, I still say Good Times was good, no matter
turned
what.
to the way.
Yeah.
But Camille, the issue that I have, and not saying you can answer this question, just talk with me in it, is that singling out African American marriages as being marriages that are not working at a more of an alarming rate than other ethnic groups. I believe that that happens in all groups. It's just not being talked about. It's just like crime happens everywhere, but all you see is African Americans on TV. And what I get angry about is that, the statistics do show that there are more African American women getting degrees than men. But that doesn't mean that because that man doesn't have that degree, that relationship can't work. A degree gives you the education in the specific field that you're working in. It doesn't say that your marriage is going to work. What helps your marriage work, number one, I'm going to say is God, and then it's a total commitment to working together against the odds. And so to say that African American marriages don't work because of economic or education and things of that nature, that happens to everybody. So I don't like the fact of saying that we cannot work. It may be more of a struggle, but when we say it doesn't work because of those things, it bothers me because everybody has to go through that, but that marriage can still work. I mean, heck, I know a lot of couples that are not their education is not equal, but their relationship is strong.
And to your point, you're exactly right. You are exactly right. I just highlighted those things because those things disproportionately affect black people. Mm-hmm. You're right. They do affect others' marriage in and of itself. It's not easy. It takes work. But those were kind of factors that are specific, well, I won't say specific to us, but affect us adversely at greater numbers.
And I'm not going against you or what you're saying because, what you're saying is absolutely correct. What I'm angry about is not what you're saying. It's the society out there that's largely, predominantly, and forgive me for saying is white orient that operates the media that are depicting that African American marriages are not working. And I dispute that. Because I see so many African American marriages that are working. Sure, there's some that fall apart, but I've seen so many of them, and I say to myself, I want to see the statistics, true statistics, to show that African American marriages are just at the same rate of failure than anyone else.
Well, Camellia did say sensationalism. If it's a negative aspect or image that they want to portray of African-American marriages, they're going to make a movie, they'll put a book out on it, they're going to just glorify it. But if you notice anything positive, we don't have too many movies about black marriages doing great things. We don't have too many events about it. I mean, you have the small sectors. You can see it, a lot of it on Facebook. But looking at the big spectrum, you don't have that because it's boring to them. It's like we so used to putting them down that low. Let them stay down that low.
So, Camille, talk to us.
And I would agree with Brenda on that point. To the victor goes the spoils. He who holds the pen writes the story. So traditionally in our society, the majority has been able to dictate what gets seen, what movies get produced, what television shows get on TV. And that's been traditionally. The beauty of social media is that, we now have alternate channels to tell our own story. Mm-hmm. We don't really have to wait for studios to publish. You can start a YouTube channel, or you can get on, what's the newest one? Not Pinterest. Periscope, and broadcast live all over the world. So it's different ways of getting our stories out there for different exposure, for people to see that, maybe the narrative we've been fed isn't necessarily true, which is a beautiful thing, just like what you guys are doing with your radio show. Yeah. Sharing your story and your glory. Different channels, I think it's a different day and age, and we're going to slowly see maybe everything that we were told or led to believe wasn't necessarily true.
Hey, we'd like to thank our listening audience for listening right now to the Let's Stay Together show. We're talking to Camellia Jackson on the Making Marriage Work segment, talking about our history. I mean, our legacy is our black history, and talking about black marriages. Camille, give me about maybe 2 or 3 things to help a couple, African-American couple that's going through any struggles right now.
So the first thing, without a doubt, is, you got to have God in your life, just without a doubt, hands down. A praying couple is a powerful thing. It's actually, I was going to end this segment with like 6 good tips, because I wanted to leave on a good note, but that was definitely one of the tips, is that, and not just praying for your marriage, but praying for your spouse. You know, when you get into the habit of wishing well for someone, particularly your spouse, it kind of helps you become less critical of them. You know, you can't wish me well and wish me fail at the same time in the same breath.
I like that.
So,
That's good.
Repeat that again, Camellia.
You can't wish me well and wish I fail in the same breath.
Right. Love it.
You know.
Give us another
So
tip real
definitely,
quick.
without a doubt, prayer. And then the other two is wise consultation. You know, I don't believe in holding things in, you know, how it used to be, you know, that we don't spread our business outside the house. And I understand that to a certain degree. But that's why I said wise consultation. You know, blasting your marital problems on Facebook, maybe not so wise. But sharing that with a pastor or a trusted, wiser, older couple who has stayed married and has probably experienced a lot of whatever it is you're going through is something that I would highly recommend.
Continue on. What's those other ones?
Right, continue on. What's number 3?
Well, the first one, and I got these. I have to say I got these off a website that I really enjoy. Is it okay for me to say what it is?
Go ahead.
It's the Black and Married with Kids. I love that website.
Yeah.
Lots of great tips, and so it just popped up. This article was on there today, and I said, wow, how timely. I'll promote this when I come on tonight. But the first thing they said is talking. You know, talking is so intimate, sharing the details of your day. I mean, this is the person you're going to be spending the rest of your life with, so it would be nice if you talked with them every day.
Yes.
The second one was holding hands. So it went on to say, you know, other intimate, non-sexual touching, a foot rub, you know, a hand on a shoulder or arm around a waist, a little thing of effect, a little gesture to show some affection. The third one is going to bed together at the same time. It says, you know, that can create a sense of intimacy, you know, and connection when you both go to bed together and, you know, tune out the rest of the world and spend that time together one-on-one.
Baby, you ready to go
I already mentioned praying for each other. That was number 5. And then number 6 was forgiving quickly and not holding grudges.
Yeah. You know, Brenda had me watch this show, Reverend Ron. It was at, what is it called?
Tyrese or Reverend
Yeah,
Ron. It's not you, it's
not
men.
men, it's men. And they were kind of talking about that, too. And it was so funny. He said, because every time he and his wife touch each other, he thinks it's time to get it on. And I think a lot of
like
African American men, you know,
And
think
women.
that, hey, you touch me, it must be time to get on because
You can't even bend down and pick up a piece of paper.
you know,
You're like,
I'm
what?
sorry.
Hey,
Way too.
I'm married, so I'm, you know, every time you touch, it's got to be an end result. That's the man's end result. But, you know, to cuddle and stuff like that, me and Brenda hold hands with each other today, 21 years, and people think we're crazy.
Yes.
But it is a great way to communicate, you know, and do things with each other. I think another example that we do as well, Camellia, is that I open the door for Brenda all the time when we're in the store, we go into the church, and people are surprised about that. But it shows that chivalry is not dead, and it gives people an identity of what a marriage should look like.
And you know, the odd thing about the Camellia is that the younger generations is not accustomed to seeing that. So they look at us so sideways like we're crazy. The more mature couples, they get it. They're smiling like, yep, that's what you're supposed to do. But the thing that gets me is that someone needs to teach the young people, the young children out there, what marriage is all about.
You know what I like, Camilla, that Brenda and Rick do, and I know because I'm usually on the other line, I love the fact that he checks in with her when he gets to work in the morning. You know, I know we're both on the line at the same time, but I love the fact that he gets to work and he says, baby, I made it safe. I'm here. I love you. I'll see you when I get home.
And hey, Tracy.
Yeah, you know, but I think what happens a lot, Camellia, is that kind of love relationship has been lost.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, the part about the chivalry. When my boys were little, I taught them to do that, and they used to race to try to get to the door to hold it open for people coming in and out, because I think they just got a kick out of people going, oh, aren't you the sweetest young man?
Yeah.
Well, that's cute, though.
You know, but-
get them started some kind of way, and I'm sure they raised
Exactly,
right.
and that goes to a point that Rick said in the last segment when he spoke briefly, and he said, you know, that kids emulate what they see. And so, you know, you're right. It's up to us to change the narrative because we can't wait on other people to tell our story and to get it right.
Right.
It's up to us to change the narrative and to show children this does exist. My husband and I had a discussion the other day about how completely different our children are growing up from the way we grew up. And it can become a challenge as when you're parenting, because again, you parent how you know and from what you've seen, but neither of us have ever seen this. So it's a work in progress, and quite often, very frequently, we refer to our more senior friends who have been in marriages much, much longer than us, friends of our parents who are still together, and we seek the counsel, and it helps us every day.
Yeah. And, a lot of people in marriages don't really like to seek counseling. I've been doing counseling for more than 20-some-odd years, and what I've found out that I said to a lot of people when in making marriage work is that I say that, people ask me, what is the percentage of your, people that you feel that you've been successful with? And I said only 20%. And they say, wow, that's real low. He said, why would you say that? I said, because only 20% of the people are actually trying to save their marriage or resolve their marriage. The other 80% just want to blame each other.
Yeah.
Amen. Can you say it again?
The 80%, look, the 80 other percent want to just blame one another.
And so what happens is they're not really working at that marriage, and we need to learn how to work at the marriage. But especially for African American marriages, I should say, that we need to start showing people that there are some solid foundations of marriage that are out there. And the people that are married that are African Americans, since we're in Black History Month, be an example. Show people that you love each other. I'm not going to say fake it till you make it. Stop faking it. Make it. Make that marriage work. And you need to be an example. I walk every time in my marriage, if I'm with Brenda or I'm not with Brenda, as an example of marriage. You're not going to catch me chit-chatting and laughing and talking to some other girl like, that ain't going to happen. I might be social with somebody, but I'm an example of a married husband, and I want people to see what that example looks like. We need to get more African-American men and some of our sisters as well to go out there and be that example. The sisters are stepping up. The brothers got to do a little bit more to be an example of what an African-American marriage looks like. Because they ain't going to see it on TV, so they need to see it in real life in your community.
Amen.
Oh, you are so right. You are so on point. I mean, again, if you just take a cursory glance at social media and even listen to, some pop songs about what's going on and what young people think constitutes a relationship, it's a level, and none of the spiritual or the mental or the emotional that all plays into making a marriage work, which is concerning, But you're absolutely right that those of us who are making it work and doing it every day, we have to be more vocal in our communities and more present for young people to set the example. That's the only way it's going to change.
Yes.
And that's the best way it's going to change, by a living example.
We got to start getting some more marriage conferences out there, not just people just going there so they can just fellowship with each other. They need to start getting some single people that are looking to get married and talk to them as well. Yeah,
because I'm not sure. Maybe one of you married people can answer this question for me. It seems like now that more people are single older, than they used to be when I was married. And I'm wondering if people are just so afraid of commitment now. What do you think?
I don't think they don't see a positive image of it. And when you said older, it was just like some of the culprits we were talking about of the reason why a lot of women are not getting married. It's not that they don't want to be married. Some of the options are not out there for them to be married.
That's true.
Hey, Camille, what you got to say about that for our comment?
It could be a lot of factors in that. Another radio show that I listen to frequently, NPR, Diane Rehm is the hostess, and she's getting ready to retire. And her husband of 50-some-odd years just recently passed away. And she talked about, being married and how devoted she was. And, they had their problems. She was very honest about that. But she did talk about the freedom of being by herself now and not having to be accountable to anybody. Yeah. And so I was curious about that, and your question kind of makes me wonder if that is part of the reason that so many people may be single, is that they see, well, I don't want to be beholden or responsible for checking in. Because even though, Rick, you say, hey, I let my wife know where I am, and it's an expression of love, somebody else may see it's like, tied to that woman and, got to check in, and may not look at it in a loving way.
Yeah. We want to thank you for, calling in. I'm just going to say something real quick. Sister, stop letting those guys just live with you.
Yes. Y'all let them have it for free.
If he can just stay there and live with you with no commitment, then a lot of them are going to do that. Force that man. What did Beyonce say? You want it, put a ring on it. Make sure you make that man put a ring on it. It's your responsibility to not allow him to have access to you without making a commitment.
Well, speaking of access, Camellia Jackson, how can someone actually talk to you? Because I know you're doing counseling. If they needed to get a hold to you, how can they reach you?
You can reach me on my office number, 713-581-0734.
And they're going to be reaching who? Camellia who? What?
That would be me, Camellia Jackson.
And what is your specialist?
Specialist, licensed clinical social worker, specializing in working with military, families, and veterans.
Amen. Well, Miss Camellia Jackson, thank you very much for being on the Making Marriage Work, talking with us today about our legacy is our Black history, and you're sure to know that we'll have you on the show again.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so that's what I say. Sisters, y'all got to stop just letting these brothers have it for free. Come on. Put that ring on it. You can get a zirconian, something. Make a commitment.
Saying after they put the ring on it, make sure they follow through.
Yeah, I'm telling you. You ain't got to spend that $10,000. I think that's Tyree was saying. Stop spending all that money on a marriage that hey, go to McDonald's and have some treats. Make the marriage work first before you spend all that money. Come on now. Hey, we're going to go commercial breaks. Thank you for listening for Let's Stay Together Talk for Rick McCain, Brenda McCain, and Tracy Howard Brown, or Tracy Brown Howard. I'm going to get that right one day. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks. Shut.